Alright, upwell strategy. I made a previous one, but this one should do just fine. Okay, so what you need to do is have a bio with a mailing list that people can subscribe to. And if you're war deck by a half competent blob like high-sec pirate group, add war deck GTFO in the beginning of your name for each, so you can actually see when you open the jump clones warning. Right? It's most people might not see it, depending on how many jump clones they have, but with the new rule set, the CCP added for high-sec Astrahuses, like medium class, that it's going to be, you get more time, not 2 days or 3 days, but 4 to 5 days for the armor timer, which is key because once it goes low power, well, obviously they used to go low power and then you'd have 5 days for the hull timer, but it was completely useless to getting your clone out. Now you have more time, and hopefully casual players will be able to see that, you're war decked, and they might have got the mailing list if they read the bio and all that stuff. So that's the first thing you have to do if you're using clone services. The clone services that I supply only cost 22 or 23,000 ISK. That's less than 10 times the cost at an NPC station, or the going rate, basically. Note, CCP Aurora said a big maybe about NPC stations being able to switch clones at the same station without cooldown, as you can do at upwells. So that's the main draw for me for using Astrahus, because it's cheaper for fuel. It's a joke for fueling. Fueling Astrahuses are laughable, laughably easy. But here's my strategy. You have a gunner. It's difficult. It's really difficult. You need excellent shortcuts for fighters. Deselect all is the tiled. Toggle selection of tube, all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Select all fighters, control, tiled. Massively important. Do you have this? It really, really is huge. The less stress you have, it's going to be incredibly difficult to manage the gunning. It's just you've got to switch targets a lot. You've got to be able to apply jams effectively. I usually set auto repeat to off. You've got to have scripts. ECM on upwells have scripts for the different factions. That's the only thing that uses scripts for ECM. You've got to remember to correctly identify. Oh, by the way, nesters are magnetometric. The Galente, right? Caldari. Most will use Triglavian, like Kikimoras, or Kikimoras eat fighters for breakfast. Don't launch fighters if this Kikimora is out. They'll just eat them alive. Drekavax eat them too, not as quickly. The Lashaks are usually the go-to for structure bashers, multiboxing structure bashers. It's just the go-to thing. Sometimes Vedmax, but yeah, it's just ridiculous. Against Drekavax and against Kikomoras, it'd be light. Don't bother going against trying to shoot at Logi. Their sig radius is even smaller than that. It's completely useless. Don't bother. Focus your newts on the Logi. Focus your jams on the Logi as well. You're going to be wanting to jam, and of course they'll probably have Galente, right? So you switch to magnetometric and jam out the Galente Logi. They like to, because it's armor, right? So you'd need to go for, say, the heavy missiles against the Drekavax. Hopefully they're using Lashak, so you can go for cruise, which is more damage. There we go. I've got about 1,000 DPS on fighters. I believe I have one siren. Don't launch your fighters unless they're fleeing. If they're leaving the field, launch your fighters and try to capture one of them. But otherwise, don't risk your fighters. If you lose one, that's okay. But if you lose all of them, it becomes a kill mail, and yeah, that's what they live for, right? So be careful of that. You need Signal Amplifier Tech 2. It adds so much to your targeting. They get 2 extra targets. That's 4 extra targets. That's you can do, I believe, 13 with this. Max target. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Max target. Okay, I get 11. Yeah, 11 targets. Your maximum is 13, of course, but 11 targets is great. It allows you to target all their Logi and as many combat vessels you want to shoot at as possible. So it keeps them guessing that you can switch targets easily, especially for smaller targets, right? Their usual tactic with Kikomoras is having frigate Logi, which will warp off if you jam or neutralize them, and they'll just warp back, right? But if you've got this, it speeds up your time of targeting. The Ballistic control system, yeah, I mean, the difference between deciding whether to go for an enhance to attack smaller or go for more damage, always go for more damage, because you want to really put the hurt on the heavier ships, and Target Painter will even help with that as well. The cruise missiles would do even more damage when you target paint and Lashaks and stuff like that. So yeah, jam the Nestors or Erneruses, what you need to do is get practiced in this, and it's hard to, because only with an actual battle on your hands will you get experience. I got that experience through Hard Knocks. What you do, which is unfortunate because now you've only got one battle now, the armor timer, right? You don't have the extra hull timer to get more practice in, so unfortunately your opportunity is reduced even further. But what you need to do is get experienced, and once you're experienced and not fumble-fingered, you can actually use the controls successfully, target the right person, jam the right person. Once you get experience in that, then you can start thinking about adding in alts who are using, basically suicide griffins orbiting at 100 kilometers. You've got a neutral whatever at range, close in, or on their FC, and you orbit your neutral with your griffins at 100 kilometers, whipping around. And at 100 kilometers, with right skills, level 5 electronic warfare, that's key. And of course, high-speed maneuvering. You can go really fast, and they won't have a lot of ECM defense on their main DPS boats. And if they're Triglavian, they'll be depending on spider tanking. And if you jam those, and they're almost invariably multi-boxers, it will add pressure, and they'll start making mistakes. And you can do it. It is possible. You can warp to 100, start orbiting, use somebody else's upwell tether to get in position, get ready, get staged, warp in one by one, quickly orbit, target a pre-designated list of people, alphabetical probably, go 4 people, then 4 people, then 4 people, you know, and just spread your jams. It'll be, of course, you'll go with the Mar jams, because mostly it'll be Triglavian, and yeah, you will pressure their Logi, pressure their DPS, and they will crack. It would be very hard for a dozen DPS boats and a few Logi to withstand the amount of stress inherent in that. Now, of course, if you're facing this huge blob, you're not going to have a chance at all, but always practice, because you never know, one day you'll be facing a foe you can defeat and chase away. Yeah. So it's all about experience, because where else will you get the experience? Your experience will be invaluable to another corporation if yours falls, or another alliance. The ability to not be fumble-fingered, because it's a different skill set entirely that you're used to, even if you're used to PvP. It's quite different. So yeah, get that neutral, non-eligible, get it close to the FC, orbit the FC, use it to warp in your guys. You can fleet warp at 100, right? And you'll be right there at 100, and you'll be able to instantly get into orbit around them and pre-designate who you're going to be shooting at. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much my strategy. Griffins orbiting 100 around the neutral, warping it at 100 from tether, hopefully at a neutral spot, and yeah, good luck, guys. It's helpful. Oh, and kind of forgot, that's one important thing: always leave room to add more fighters, but don't stuff it full of fighters. Leave room, because you remember, once it's damaged, like under repair or in reinforcement, you cannot remove any fighters. You can remove ammo, so stuff as much ammo as you feel like in scripts. You can remove it. Smartest way to do it is just before you're 15 minutes before, and you've used all your cap and they're going through your hull and your half hull. Just remove all your ammo, asset safety it elsewhere, and then what you need to do is, once you've done that, and you've asset safety as much as you can, you undock before it explodes, because if you wait for it to explode, you'll lag out and they'll get you. So get in a quick ship and undock, like just before it explodes, so you don't get lagged out and you can get away. All right. Yeah, they're really quick at salvaging and looting, so, and killing you, so yeah, get away quick. Yeah, I keep grams in my items bay for my gunner, and I can load the grams if they have a lot of drones out. If they're using a lot of heavy drones, you can just gank them. It's really fun. If if you've got 3 wings of grams, you can target as it's kind of like a conveyor belt of targeting fighters, the heavy fighters, and then sending one wing against one, targeting the next, sending one wing against the other. And if you do that as a just leapfrogging, you'll prevent the grams from stopping in space and being sitting ducks, because as soon as they kill their target, they stop in space. So if you do it like a leapfrogging thing, it will continually make the grams go to the next drone, and they kill them really quick. So if you can do it quickly, you can get a lot of them. Be aware of Kikimoras. They eat fighters for breakfast. But anyways, grams, there are 12 of them. So yeah, you could have a lot of fun killing drones. It's kind of fun. Yes, that's that. My setup is I do fobs all day, every day. Well, I'd like to, but I don't anymore, just occasionally. But I get so many of the blueprints for the faction neutralizers for the Blood Raiders that I've got tons of faction newts. I don't like stocking them on all my upwells, well, except one, which is next to a low sec gate, so it's kind of like bait. I'd love to get the faction ECM, but I'm too chicken to take on the Garistas fobs. It's pretty funny. One day maybe, but yeah, the faction ECM, that would be awesome to have. Yeah, but yeah, the best way to defend your clones and other people's clones is to have an Astrahus, and the bonus is you get less fuel cost for Astrahouses, citadels for clone base. So yay, right? Do be aware that it's a bit tricky when you're playing with rigs. It will be a false double bonus when you're simulating, so do be aware of that. When you're simulating and you see stats jumping way beyond what they should be normally, that's because of the rigs. It'll be counted double. They fixed it on Singularity, but they haven't fixed it on Tranquility yet. I don't know, whatever. Strategy. I mean, basically the idea is that a pointer in a web is useless. They've only got like 20 seconds of use, and you're not ganking things easily. You're going up against experienced people who know how to tank against this kind of stuff, and you won't be able to farm kills. Weapon of point on a citadel is for griefers who want to farm on fools who kitchen sink and warp in one by one and get pasted. Neutralizers on other upwells like Ratarus and Athenors are useless. Don't bother. Go with as many jams as possible. You know, jams and a battery, you know. The best rigs are the economy for neutralizing. So I've got economy here, economy there, and this is for projection for E-War. Highly recommend that. It's yeah, turns your ECM into some monsters, and the faction newts are longer range, like 50% more range, and more neutralizing. So yeah, don't forget to have the 3 different kinds of missiles. Do be aware that fighters are incredibly expensive, insanely so, and they mass so much, so it's a migraine just trying to haul them to your upwells. Do be aware that most upwells will fall in 15 minutes. I don't know what the new rule is with the upwells having their armor and hull go at the same time, but they've nerfed the hulls, so it's like probably hardly, maybe 17 or 18 minutes, maybe 20 at tops. Don't go crazy on trying to get it cap stable. 10 minutes is more than enough. If you haven't broken their force and make them run away in less than 10 minutes, you've got problems. So don't worry about cap stability more than 10 minutes, honestly. If you can't organize a defense and make it timed in that 10-minute window, why are you bothering, right? Why are you bothering trying to make it more cap stable? Okay? Getting to level 5 won't really help. Level 5 skills barely scratch the cap stability. Yeah, the DPS on the cruise missiles is just insane. Yeah, and you can't control more than one siren wing at a time, so you're kind of stuck with that. The PvPers will usually flee if you launch sirens, because that can point forever, and if something's being threatened, it'll die. I tend not to launch them because when you're dealing with people, they're quite experienced in shooting fighters down, including sirens. So sirens would be, oh, there's only 3 of them I need to kill in order to get my kill mail. You know, that's their thinking, right? Yeah, get it organized for you guys, especially all your alts that are gunners. Get it synchronized. I have it this way because it's easier for me to feel for F8 and F7 and F6, and F5 is the painter. I prefer not to have the painter at F8. You can do what you want, but it just works out that way. It just feels more organic to have the ECM at the last 3. It just makes sense. I've tried different combos, but this seemed to have the most effect battle tested. I tried different fits before. I wasn't too impressed with the earlier fits when I didn't have enough targets. The more targets I had, the more flexibility I had for dealing with, you know, what they threw at you. You have no choice about what they throw at you. They do. And when you have more targeting options, it just opens up so many more options than what you could put in the low slots otherwise, right? You could put 3 and get 13 targets, but that extra damage, yeah, it's pretty huge. Added with the painter, it increases the damage. And when you're putting the herd on something and you've jammed out their Logi and you've got Griffins on field and you're neutralizing their other Logi, it adds up the pressure. And I felt that 2 less targets was worth a little bit more damage. Your mileage will vary, but this is battle tested against domain research and mining, who fielded enough that, yeah, it was pretty much child's play for them to take me down. I killed 1 or 2 of their stuff, mostly through luck and timing, basically when they were leaving the field. You know, something weird happened and it was too much risk for them and they left. They camped Masaba, duh. So yeah, where would you place your upwells? Well, if you've got low-sec friends, place it on a low-sec gate. You know, because high-sec pirates hardly ever go through low-sec or keep scouts in there. You know, it's a great ambush point because they just don't consider it. It's just not in their brain pan to think about it. I like putting them on the undocks of stations for insta-warp stuff. That's awesome. I prefer it that I'm undocking from the NPC, warping to the upwell, and not the other way around. it would be nice, I mean, I pick MR stations with up and down undocks instead of Caldari, which are, I could match the undock insta warps for both, but that's your choice. I highly recommend putting your upwells in systems with a lot of NPC stations. That way you can have a way to match up your upwells to a singular NPC station that you can, and this is key, keep most of your assets at that nearby matched up NPC station, including clones you don't use a lot. That way, when you do get war decked, you can spend most of your time aiding the defense instead of scrambling to move your assets, which can take days if you've gotten lazy, you've had all your stuff in your... It's kind of fun to have them in your structure, but believe me, battle tested, you need all your shit as much as possible, except the stuff you use constantly or at war, in those NPC stations you've got matched up. And that's key. That's 100% key. Hopefully at some point very soon, the maybe that Aurora talked about, that maybe we'd get the ability to not have jump clone cooldown when we switch at NPC stations, like at the same station, just like we can do at upwells without jump clone cooldown. That would be awesome. If that happens, I'd seriously consider anchoring all my citadels, because they would become instantly obsolete. For the peace of mind of not being war decked constantly, I would, well, constantly as in, every 1 to 3 months, I would seriously consider paying $1 million to switch a lot. And currently, because I don't mine anymore, I'm not switching constantly between my mining vessels, ice mining vessels, and my pirate stronghold bashing implant sets, and that's a lot of switching. And I needed the upwells to do it on the fly, but I'm basically wandering around with one implant set now, not switching at all, because I've given up mining because CCP ruined mining. I mean, not the ABCs removal, nor the Rorquals. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the low sec expeditionary cloaky kind of mining that was fun. It kept you awake. That was exciting. You were dodging PvPers. It was fun. And they just completely ruined it. We need to deal with bots, so they just made warp core stabs active. And they didn't boost it to the ability to, so I could defeat faction scrams, which every low sec PvPer uses, right? So plus 3 warp scram strength, and you're like, wait, yay, I get +2. Thanks, CCP morons. But it's amazing that they also neglected to put nullifiers on expeditionary frigates. It's like, wait, you mean I can't even use nullifiers to sneak expedition frigates into nullsec to mine there? Who was pandering to the nullsec blocks when that happened, right? It's like, oh, we don't want any pests in around our space. It's just so much malice that's transmitted through pure greed and stupidity by CCP. I'm sure it wasn't malicious on their part, because they were following what the null blocks did when they kissed their ass, right? They sucked their e-peen. So it's a shame. It's taken all the fun out of mining, because I can't have fun versus, oh, I can just mine ice and high sec like the rest of them. It's lucrative. Why wouldn't you do it? It's fun. It's mining. You can have fun mining. I love mining. I mined in RuneScape, for Christ's sake. When I was dating somebody, she was a wacko, but she introduced me to RuneScape. I only played it while I was dating her, though. But yeah, any game I love mining. Elite, dangerous, whatever. I'll switch this off in a heartbeat once I get into Elite Dangerous. It's kind of hard getting into it, but once I do, it'll just be lights out, especially when I can get all my clones and everybody else's clones out of my upwells and back into the NPC stations where they're safe. And that would just be awesome, you know. It won't be cheap, but hey, at least there won't be that annoying cooldown to deal with anymore if you do it right. Yeah, so that's basically my strategy of I'm going to be really happy when these are obsolete, but this is the best iteration I've gotten. If I get attacked again, I might have a better version, but I think it's just more experience now. This is about as optimal as it can get against the targets we face usually. You know, you can't think, oh, what if they use some kind of bizarre fit of blah. No, they will come in with Triglavian ships because that's the meta. They will use the meta. They've got a bag of tricks. It doesn't vary a lot. They got a lot of stuff in their bag of tricks, but it doesn't vary a lot. And if they do, it'll be one-off and they'll raffle stomp, but it's not going to be typical. It won't be what you will expect, first off, initially. Initially, you will face Triglavian ships, period. Might get some Nesters in there too, like a bunch of Nesters and Lashaks. That's the lazy multi-boxing stuff they used to do, but lately they're getting a little bit smarter. But it's still the meta. They will follow the meta. Focus on countering the meta. Don't try to counter something that you think is going to be better than the meta. Know that they will come in with the meta, and this is how to defeat it. If you're lucky, if you can make them have mistakes, morale will break, or they'll find something else. I mean, Domain Research Mining probably would have raffle stomped all my citadels by now, a long time ago, if they hadn't been ambushed on the gate, on the low-sec gate, when they were attacking something on that gate, and they had an event, the null-sec gates that were introduced, the shortcuts, you know, from Abazon to Near Jita, and something to Stain, and Domain Reserve Mining just flocked to Salmoner, where the race was going to, or whatever, and their kill board just exploded. So that, you know, squirrel. So I was lucky we ambushed one of their main task force for bashing fobs, and they got distracted. So that was the reason I survived, and the only reason. They would have kept rolling, or I would have got more experience. It would have been fun. I would have gotten even more experience at this, and I would have been able to even practice my Griffin technique that I was planning on doing then. But yeah, the more practice you get, the easier it becomes, and you have a hope in hell, snowball's chance in hell, defeating these people. Because, you know, how much experience are you going to develop until all your stuff is just dead, and you're like, oh, you know? So it's good experience. Will it be useful? Yes, if CCP doesn't enact their, you know, Aurora did say maybe, and she was very iffy about that, about the switching at stations without cooldown. So if that doesn't happen, yeah, I mean, I've got invaluable experience, and these coreless upwells, would I put down another Astrahus? That was cored because I have to, if I plant another one now, because I planted mine before the cores were introduced, right? So probably not. Like, okay, theoretically, hypothetically, what if it did? What would I do? Would I use a Fortizar? Yeah, Damn right it would. Where would I put a Fortisar? I was going to plan a Fortisar. I wouldn't do it in a low sec, because I'm a one-man corp, right? So I don't have the backing to defend against large blobs. So I wouldn't do it in low sec because it would just be a target. High sec, where would I put it? I would most likely try a high sec island that was protected by low sec, that didn't have any high sec pirate HQs nearby. And I would have to get friendly with the low sec alliance that controls the low sec space around it, because then the high sec pirates would have to transit low sec, and the risk would be too high for them. That would be you'd have to get friendly with low sec people. I'm not currently. My alliance friends are, but I'm not personally. But that would be probably the option I'd go for. Make friends with low sec people, find the high sec island that those low sec people control, and place the Fortisar there, and have it just kind of like this, but stronger. More fighters, of course, more sirens, but have the same kind of idea. And even the Griffins would help too. Yeah, and you would not be able to have the usual ragtag bunch of low-end, low-rent, high-sec war deckers like Riot or Black Flag take you down, because it would be too risky. Even domain research mining would have trouble. If it would just depend who you made friends with. Like, if I was smart, I'd be like, okay, who's the biggest, baddest low-sec people around? Snuffed Out. So make friends with Snuffed Out. It would be difficult to make friends with Snuffed Out because I was part of an alliance that got raffle stomped by them in a really stupid engagement. So I don't have a lot of rep with Snuffed Out. I'd probably have to prove myself in combat, probably join them as a corp, probably join one of the corps using my main, probably Major Freak, and join them, have fun, and then get permission for a high sec Fortisar in their island. I'm sure they have a high sec island somewhere up there, and that's how I do it. A powerful low sec blob that's going to protect you, if you play ball, right? So that's what I counsel people to do. If you want to plant something, don't bother with BS Astrahus or Taro. They're completely useless. You can find NPC stations in low sec that give better bonuses than your Ratar or Athenor, honestly. Yeah, I mean, there's no benefit for ISEC, Ratarus, and Athenors at all. It's completely useless. There's more opportunities for ISK without worrying about it. And the Fortisar would be for the Clumpe. That's it. And it would be cheap. And it'd be useful. And I'm sure some people would use like the low-sec people would use your Fortisar because it's cheap. But now that you can have multiple jump clones at a single upwell, it wouldn't be that attractive to people. But who knows, you would, of course, use it. But you'd have to have the stuff you want to nearby. I mean, would I have access to pirate strongholds nearby? Would I have access to mining nearby? Would I use a high-sec island to base out of for my fob hunting and mining? Well, I love mining, And if I could get back into low-sec mining, it would be super fun. Even with the nerfs that CCP hit my mining team with, might be able to do it. It would be fun. But you've got to realize, where am I going to be able to do the stuff I want to do in EVE that I planned on making this game, mine. I mean, it's not EVE, it's what you vision like I mine in Pirates Journal Bash. Does EVE sell the game that game to me initially? No. I mean, EVE's mining was these ridiculously stupid crescents that aren't aligned to any planet or orbiting, or it just looks like a stupid crescent of stupid rocks, and you're like, wow, this looks really pixelated and stupid. Why would I be mining in this game? But yeah, you have a suspension of disbelief. CCP does not market this game as anything but all the most amazing sci-fi experience, blah blah blah, and then you take the bits of it that you like, that you can, that you expected the game to be, and you took the bits of it that most matched what you wanted the game to be, and you made it your own. And that's what CCP does not understand at all. It's explicit. They say, you remember their MPE video? They called it immersive. Well, it's not immersive. You're just strapped in and have to watch the cutscene, and that's it. And you've got script stuff throughout it, and that's their idea of immersion: dragging you, strapping you down, and making you watch their stuff, and that's immersion. So you definitely understand their vision for the game is sort of like George Lucas. It's not exactly what they say, and if they haven't said it, it's not intended. Yeah, it's really bizarre way of dealing with mods, but that's developers the world over. They just don't learn. They don't evolve. They just see problems. Yeah, play a drinking game. How many times CCP Bear talks about problem? Burger says the word problem instead of evolve, and you play a drinking game. You get drunk real quick. Yeah, just what is your role? Don't use your towers, don't use the Astronors, only use the Clone Bay, the citadels for Clone Bay use, and protect it against the meta. Yeah, there's not really a lot of theory crafting as much as, okay, there's the meta, I've got to counter the meta, and that's your best bet. And if you can get experience, great. If you survive it, even better. But the more experience is the better. More experience, you can deal with a small force more effectively, and gain more experience by just button mashing. It's just getting the muscle memory down to be able to do that, and hopefully multi-box a few griffins. Yeah, that's the idea. But yeah, I mean, I've got a short playlist of industry, and look up the industry for manufacturing efficiency and industry and stuff, and check out the bonuses you can get in low sec compared to some stupid retire in high sec. You need a really hardcore Tech 2 rigged Asbel and stuff like that to actually compete with low sec, honestly. Yeah, oh, and by the way, the reprocessing of loot and stuff, it doesn't matter what implants or what station you're at, it's always the same. Well, it's almost always the same. There are some low sec stations, or there's some stations, NPC, that only give 35% versus 50% base. Just be aware of that. That's been in the game for decades. Yeah, it's enjoyable, but you got to realize that if somebody plunks down a Retar or an Athenor in high sec, they're just asking to get ganked. It's just useless. There are no longer APC ores in high sec. It's completely useless to do that sort of thing in high sec unless you're just hardcore role-playing Care Bear and want to pretend you're making lots of this. But there's tons of other ways of making this by mining that is more lucrative than that crap. That's about it. I think I've plumbed everything. Yeah. Don't worry about your ammo. Remove it just before at half hull and asset safety it. Only put in as much fighters as you absolutely need. No more. No less, but no more. Don't have gobs of fighters. If you're going through fighters like crazy, you're not being effective. The only way you're going to kill something, and the missiles are expensive too, but the only way you're going to be effective is if you have them start making mistakes, have them break their logi, and then you can pounce. And you've only got about 10 to 15 minutes before everything drains, so you're not going to go through a ton of fighters unless you're doing something wrong. So yeah, again, they're expensive, very volume, there are lots of volume to transport. It'll take a freighter to move stuff like that, so just be aware of that. What my strategy of GTFOing and mobilizing stuff is to have bowheads, neutral piloted bowheads, that can get ECM boats to a station and deploy my griffins, because being able to get to the system that you're being attacked at with and position it, and then have your pods whip back and forth, or fast ships or cloaky ships or whatever, and get to the station and then get into the ships you want to use, is highly invaluable. Because remember, you're war targets, right? You can't just fly whatever around. You've got to pre-position as much as possible, and bowheads are great. Neutral bowhead, NPC's Corp, perfect. Yeah, and by the way, my mains are all in a war ineligible corp, but you got to remember, it takes 24 hours to join an alliance, but instantly you can leave. But don't leave while you're being war decked. You'll still get the cooldown, and you'll get a war history on that. It's an extra war that lasted 24 hours, so wait till the war is over before you leave the alliance. But yeah, it's pretty much instant. You can just leave and go back to whatever you want to do, but it's a plug and play system. You've got your militants, which are also your Care Bear characters too. I do the same thing. I've got combat enough SP that I've got military experience and Care Bear experience in the same characters in my mains, which are in a non-war eligible corp that can plug and play into my holding alliance, which has all my upwells. And I can, alliance history, who the hell looks at alliance history? I don't care about alliance history. I do care about employment history. I don't like having employment history just jammed up with leaving, quitting. I hate that. But if you have everybody in a corporation, you can plug and play with alliances that you want to defend or help or whatever. Allying up is pretty much free, and it lasts 2 weeks exactly. You can re-ally up after that, but it lasts 2 weeks exactly. And that's like right now, my holding corp is war decked along with my friends. Their alliance is war decked too at the same time. Yay, they did it that way, so I don't have to ally up, because I guess they know I'd ally up anyway, so they just war deck me anyways. But my Care Bear corp isn't war decked because it can't be, and so I can merrily do whatever I want and know that if my shields get popped randomly when I'm sleeping, whatever, that it's 4 to 5 days before I get the armor timer, right? And it'll be, is it 1.5 hours or 3 hours? Anyways, whatever. I don't trust the CCP to hold to that 1.5 hours. I'm sure they'll go back to the 3-hour differences, plus or minus. But anyways, that, one of the two is correct right now, and I have control of that. I can set it to the most difficult time for high-sec war deckers, and high-sec war deckers will almost invariably war deck at, and their optimal time, because most targets are available at 1800 hours. That's when the population of the server is the greatest. Their playstyle means, and CCP's default reinforcement time is 1800. So everything just flows that way. It's their playstyle. They can't help not be that way. And so you just take the opposite. You go, I would like to do downtime. Downtime is the most difficult time for them. I know that 0700 is the most difficult time for a particular, the man from Wherefore. One-man alliance is just prolific. You know those people. They're in-game. You've met them. But his sleepy time is around 700, almost guarantee it. On the weekends, he plays with a couple of alts that pretend to be off schedule, but it's just laughable. But yeah, I mean, if you can check when they're sleeping, mostly, and check when they're most active, which is usually 1800. 0700 is usually the best time to do the reinforcement default, depending on your work schedule, because, you've got to be home to help it, right? So 1.5 hours would help with that, to fine-tune it down a bit more, but just count on it being plus or minus 3 hours, and adjust it to make sure you're not working at the time. I'm getting a kick out of still effectively playing. Screw you, CCP. But yeah, I mean, the ability to game the usual meta for a pirate set group is useful. When you're on Zkill, by the way, go into top, the category, the drop down menu for top, and pick all time, and it'll show you all the most popular players, ships, systems, everything for all time for that entity. So top tab, go to the top tab and pick all time, and then it'll just show you exactly what you want to know about the entity that's you're facing, what their favorite ships to use are, what their favorite systems to attack are, who are their most prolific killers, yada yada yada. It's wonderful. And if you're dealing with Riot, that has spaces in their name, which is hard to search on Zkill, just simply think up one of their corps and enter that into the search, and then hit the alliance. Easy enough to do. Practicing on a singularity is good, especially with teammates. It gives them confidence that, like when I initially was told, like when I was an F1 monkey, and I fly cruisers and battleships and stuff, people say, oh, if you lose a ship, fly a frigate in and help us out. And I thought Griffins would last seconds and they'd be useless, and the fits they would give would be, I didn't like them, and they'd be crap, and I wouldn't be cap stable, and I'd be like, I'm gonna last seconds and this won't be any fun. It won't be fun for me. I won't learn anything. I'll just fly into battle and die in seconds, and I won't learn anything. I won't live long enough to practice any skills. And I just thought the idea was stupid and didn't train electronic warfare to 5, and I should have. But yeah, it's getting experience, getting the confidence that yes, oh my god, I can actually jam something. I'm on field, I'm jamming something, and something's trying to kill me at the same time. So it's a great feeling to be able to go, oh my god, I lasted more than a minute. And that confidence means you'll be more interested in partaking in a defense instead of saying, oh, it's going to be useless, I'm going to look like a fool, I don't want to do it, kind of thing. But yeah, practicing on singularity is key, especially for people who haven't done it before. I've got the experience now to actually gun and multibox, which would have been impossible. I mean, my first upwell defense was just a joke. I was doing so many silly mistakes. They were laughing at me, of course. This domain, I mean, freaking, they can't miss Sabbath, for Christ's sake. Duh. But yeah, your first experience, don't try to multibox. Just focus on, take a video, record a video of what you did so you can look back on it, or just at least immediately after combat think about, what was I doing? Alright, I was jamming. Was I using the right script? Oh, I probably wasn't. Crap. I was trying to jam a Nestor with a radar ECM because I was expecting trigs, and then I wasn't really clear about how effective my neutralizers were, so I was using 2 neutralizers on 1 target instead of spreading them out. I was firing my missiles after I painted somebody. That meant, people can see the painted thing is going, hey, I'm being painted, and then all the logic switched to him. Learning that missiles take time to hit their target, so if you launch the missiles, wait a bit, and then paint as soon as your damage starts being applied, you can get the drop on people a bit more. But yeah, it's that subtlety you start to add to your game. It will catch people by surprise, and if you can get griffins on field and starting to jam spider webbing freaking trig ships, it will add pressure to people who are not used to it. Because remember, high sec pirates playstyle is designed to go low risk, high reward against care bearers who kitchen sink, who come in one by one, who get raffle stomped, and they're not used to facing threats of such magnitude that they don't know which one of their clients is going to be jammed or neuted or shot, and it just adds levels of stress to people not used to stress. And once people would make mistakes, and as soon as they start making mistakes, they'll want to leave the field because they're risk averse. And as soon as you do that, you've got them, because if you can capture one of them with your sirens and fighters and focused fire, and they've lost their logic because everybody else has left the field, that one ship will die. And I was merciful once. Don't be merciful. If you can kill something, kill it. Don't go, hey guys, I've caught you. Look it, I've got you. Hands down, one of you guys is going to die. You pull your punches. Don't gank that. If you can, gank it. Giving them being a good sport isn't understood by these people at all. They'll even pretend to be good sports, but will backstab you with it's all fodder for them, right? They're used to low-sec smack talking, right? Just think of the worst goon talk in local you can think of. Yeah, that's a decades-old meme, huh? Anyways, but yeah, it's just, don't engage in small talk with them in local. Don't engage with private conversations at all. If you've got a diplomat, let him deal with it, but yeah, mostly it's going to be bullshit. Yeah, and if you kill somebody or you lose or whatever, GF and local, and don't expect any good sports returns. unless they totally raffle stomped you, and then they'll be going the GFs, right, in local. Yeah, I mean, once you've lost cap stability, just stop firing your weapons. That just completely just shut down. Wait till you recharge. If they're taking a while, you'll get another chance to do more attacks. That's the best bet. So if you run low on cap, just stop firing and wait till it recharges. It'll take a while, but at least you'll get another attempt, which might surprise them. But after the 10-minute mark, your options are very limited, and unless you get really lucky, like say some neutral comes in with a stabber and bumps somebody. That happened once. That's how I got a kill. It was quite fun. Yeah, just some friendly neutral just came in and helped me out. Oh, and another thing. They might be silly enough to have kill rates on them. You can see it when you click one of them, and you'll see it on their selected item. It'll be an icon, I think a red target thing or something, but that's Crime Watch, and you can activate it if possible, and you could make them suspect, and some neutrals could just gank them, and they wouldn't be able to logi the suspect, because I think it's either criminal or the logi shares the flag of, I forget exactly, but it's it would not be good. So yeah. Oh, and by the way, you can only share logi between your alliance mates, the same corporations in the same alliance. If you're at war with somebody and you're allied up, you can't share another, like outside of your alliance or corporation, you cannot share logi with some other person, even if they allied up with you as defenders for you. You won't be able to share logi. So do be aware of that. It catches many people by surprise. You go criminal and die. It's pretty bad. Yeah, that's the main pitfall of people. I'm sure there's more pitfalls. Do be aware that if you leave an alliance, your corp will get a free war with a billing date that starts right then. So you'll get a week war that's free for the attacker, and it'll appear on and everybody's, like, if you've got, like, if there are 3 entities war decking your alliance and you quit, everybody gets a notification that 3 new notifications of a war starting with your corp, with the war deckers. So be aware of that. It's quite a headache for people, and it looks really dumb. And if you get a surrender offer, it's not somebody else surrendering to you. It's, if you get a surrender offer, you're going to be surrendering to that entity for X amount. It's not, hey, we're going to pay you this much to surrender to you. No, it's you surrender to us for X amount, and that's what that notification means. The surrender offer, lol. I know, right? Yeah, there's this. Check out my corp playlist. There's a lot of loopholes and stuff that I've tried to close. They at least give you information about. So definitely check my Upwell playlist and my corp playlist. It'll give you a lot more information. I can't remember everything. It's just, I've forgotten more stuff than you'll ever learn. Just check my playlists, and I hope you never get to a point where you know more than me, because that's kind of sad. I mean, I know some stuff that even I have problems with Eve Uni for getting it wrong. Like the peak recharge time for capacitor and shields. They based it on some guy on a forum a long time ago saying, here's the numbers, I calculated them. And you're like, okay, and that's the take it on faith. And like I know more about or asteroid regeneration that is different between nullsec, which is 3 days and everything goes back to 100%, lowsec, which is a gradiated thing that takes 20 days to recharge, and highsec, which regenerates to 80% every day except Monday and Friday, which is only 30%. Yeah, so there are so many different rules. Like, if you get pointed while having a weapons timer, like say a command burst active, outside upwell, and you get pointed and you don't have any warp core stabs, and you're pointed enough that you cannot, if you're pointed, basically, if you've got no bonuses whatsoever to warp core, if you're pointed, you won't be able to dock, period. Which is different, because if you're in an NPC station, even if you have, as long as your weapons timer cools down and you're outside of that weapons timer or session timer, be careful if you're shot at and blown up, your pod will not be able to dock because you have a session timer. So warp off and then back and dock. Don't try to dock because you'll die, because that'll give them enough time during the session timer that they can target your pod and kill you. So always warp off and back to an NPC station or an upwell. You can dock even while pointed at an NPC station, because no matter how much damage is coming in on you or how many points you got, you can dock at an NPC station, unlike the upwell. So do be careful of your weapons timer at an upwell. You're expecting to tether, and mine, the old style that don't have cores, you can't tether, you can't refit, you can't put drones in, and you can't repair your ships while docked at an upwell without a core. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think I've pretty much dredged the bottom of the Atlantic with that little strategy session for upwells. Take heart. If you're getting into upwells and high sec, you're going to get war decked. You're going to have a core which is like pinata. I mean, it cost almost $1 billion for the core, right? And it's 100% cash back for them. They can sell it for the exact same price you bought it at. And it's almost $1 billion-esque that they get free from NPC stations that they can sell to. You know, it's just ridiculous. And their charge for war decking you is only $100 million. So yeah, it should be $1 billion to war deck people per week. You know, and it should increase per week. It should actually be, say, $1 billion to start, and $2 billion, then $3 billion, then $4 billion, and just increases every week. Because they're bribing freaking DED to look the other way. I mean, obviously, after a while, just think about the corruption here. You're bribing people, but you're continuing to bribe them, and the war's going on. That'll garner more attention. Why wouldn't the bribes have to be increased as the level of how many people you're going to have to bribe to continue having DED look the other way for Crime Watch? Because it's not consensual. Why would Concord allow that if it's not consensual, right? Why would anybody allow that? So in that effect, it's, one doesn't even, like, what is the rationale for, like, is there any role-playing rationale that CCP uses for Concord allowing wars? I mean, seriously. I mean, have you ever thought about it? I don't think they've ever addressed that point about what that fee is used for exactly? Like, is it paying off people? Is it just, can you apply for a war that's non-consensual, and even without all these crime watch stuff, it's like, how can you apply to non-consensually attack somebody? I don't think they've even gone there conceptually. I don't think they've ever thought about it, ever. Sat about and going, where does that money go? Like, why is Crime Watch the way it is, yet we can war deck people for so cheaply? And now we've introduced cores that are just cash back, instant, 100% refund. Is there any morality? So yeah, not even gonna bother. You know I won't be able to find it, and I know I'd just be wasting our time. Yeah, so coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? It's an imperfect world. This is a dystopian game. It's a game that I love because it's, you're having to deal with unprecedented unfairness that you cannot anticipate. That's the perfect AI, isn't it? That, rats in asteroid belts, lol. How silly is that? They're easy to deal with, but the unpredictability and dangers and risk inherent in the game when you have these a-holes who are risk averse themselves, but whatever, try to eliminate all risk themselves and put all the risk on you, and you're willing to take that risk. It's, because it's unscripted. They are doing things that you did not expect and could not have expected, and that's spontaneous for you. It might be the run-of-the-mill BS for them, meta, that they learned from somebody else and they're just copying and just being dicks. But you are playing a game that is unpredictable completely and is unfair. But did you want it to be fair? Did you want it to be predictable? Play a single player game then, right? That's why we've got a MOG. That's why you play a MOG, right? Well, the other reasons you play a MOG is because you can pick up for where you've left off. You don't have to wait in a lobby to start the game. There's no save game, which is interesting. The fact that if I make a mistake, I can't load a save game. That's fun for me, because normally I'm a huge save scummer. But I love MOGs because your mistakes mean something. And it's fun because it's like, it's risk, right? It involves risk, and it's fun, but most people just complain and whine and walk away or hide and stuff. But me, I didn't strip my upwells. I used what I had at the time, lost that battle, went, I need to fit my other unattacked, unrepairing upwells differently, and I quickly adapted and learned. And you've got to do that, because if you don't, you're just going to ostrich, and what's that going to solve, right? It's why you're playing a MOG then, right? It's risk. Realize it's risk. Enjoy the risk. Enjoy the spontaneity of that risk. Don't revel in the risk. That's just silly. Don't ostrich in the risk. That's silly. Realize that these people, and the most important thing, of course, is to realize that the war might be over, but they will be back. You're now on their Rolodex, and they will be back if they haven't completely ground you under, right? If you're still war eligible, they will be back eventually, because you're on their Rolodex. You're content for them. You might not remember Hulkageddon, but the official narrative for the hook getting people was, if you bring tank, we'll bring more gank, which turned out to be, if you looked at the Z-kill stats, was a complete lie. They would use the usual stuff against targets, and they'd keep doing it. They would bring more blob, but it wasn't a tailored thing. It wasn't. They had the calculators to tailor it. Like if they had a calculator that you could ship scan and add it to the ship calculator thing, and it would tell you exactly how many catalysts you would need to kill a certain target. But what I discovered was most people weren't interested in cooperating. It was a competition to see who could get the most kills, and mostly you could see it was like most griefers used 3 counts only. Most of them have 3 counts only. Some, like Man from Wherefore, has 9, probably more, probably 12 max, but the core of it was 9. But most griefers just have 3 counts that they use for combat, and you could see that they would use those to just garner kills for themselves. They wanted to gank the easy targets, and it would just be, you are fighting a war of the lowest hanging fruit. As long as you're not the lowest hanging fruit, and just like I learned in low-sec, as long as you're not the lowest hanging fruit, you will not be attacked by the usual lazy, low-risk, high-reward griefer gang, which is, whatever they can get quick as possible and farm those kills. They won't be interested in doing the calculator. They'll just go at using the meta, because calculators might be all well and good for the smarter, but they play harder, and they'll just go in with the meta. They'll try to gank it, and if they can't, whatever, they'll just move on to the next one, right? And as long as you are less attractive as a target, they'll pick the more attractive target. It's easy. It's a piece of cake. Why would they waste their time attacking a fully manned, armored, competent Astrahus with allies nearby and possibly low-sec blob ready to ally up for content, when they can just gank some Corvette at MR and get lulls from it? It's literally, I'm not making a guess, I'm telling you fact. So it's different from low-sec life. I love low-sec life because, yes, it's the same, make yourself an unattractive target. The low-sec mentality, and this could apply to high-sec as well, but the low-sec mentality I discovered was that they will eventually, no matter how you try to hide yourself, they will eventually know who you are, know what you fly, know how you fit, know what you do, know how you do it, and the ability to make yourself a difficult target to attack and kill means they will be less interested in, if they see you in local, they will be less interested. They'll know what you're doing, they know you're a hard target, they won't even bother, and they'll move on to the next person, or the next system, because they know you've cloaked up instantly, that it's going to be impossible for you to, so it's like they'll use the least amount of time to find you, because they know they're wasting their time, that you're smart, you'll do it smart, and you're a smart target, and that means a hard target, and it means less kills for them, and they want kills, so they'll just move on to the next system where there's going to be a low-hanging fruit. So always in low-sec I found, make yourself a hard target, which means don't make yourself a soft target, which means if they kill you easily, it'll compound the issue. As soon as they kill you easily, it'll just snowball out of control. So you've got to, well, obviously you'll die a lot, but if you continually try to adapt, you'll get smarter and smarter and smarter until you become a hard target, until you use tactics that aren't stupid, that you play smarter, not harder, and you'll get really smart, and you'll become a hard target because you're not easy target, and that's how low-sec works. High sec, well, they just use the meta. And they use tricks that you can't do in low sec. And it's pretty shitty, and it's totally unfair, because in low sec, at least it's a level playing field. In high sec, God, there's so many loopholes. God, there's so many. But yeah, I mean, yeah, go to low sec, enjoy low sec. I don't anymore because CCP ruined that for me as a Care Bear in low sec. But yeah, I don't hold out hope. They're a bunch of idiots. The game will go out with a whimper instead of a bang, and it'll never get better. Yeah, it eventually is. Once the population of the server is continually, constantly below 20k, you know the game's going to die. As long as it's 20k or above at some point during the day, or whatever, during the week, the game's fine. It's always been that way. It's always been fine. People talk about, oh, when there's 60,000 people online, blah, blah, blah. That's bullshit. It's just the average over the decades has been 20k. It's just the number. I mean, just trust me, it's what I look on the launcher. You know, when I play, it's like around 20k. Sometimes lower on the slow tides, because I play during the slow times, because less skanking, right? So, yeah, it's just, yeah, Elite Dangerous, definitely recommend it. There are ways to make it true physics, and I used to play Jumpgate, which was fun. That was I wonder what Wikipedia says about Jumpgate. Like, it was a spaceship simulator, just, you know, you didn't have walking around stations, you just same kind of thing, but it was joystick kind of thing, right? Jumpgate. Not that one. Nope. That's number 2. Jumpgate Classic. Nope. It's probably dead. No, okay. Cute. Oh my god, that's so cute. You know, it's amazing. Freeform, it was, if you fired your thrusters in one direction, you keep going in that direction. And if you turned your ship a bit and fired your thrusters again, you'd start to go in another direction, but it'd be very vector flight. It was fun. Yeah, no point and click. I used to call EVE Online point and click. And you can get Elite Dangerous close to that freeform as possible, which is fun. I'd love to do that. Get back to that. It's so much fun. But yeah, I'm sure this game is gonna slowly go out over the years. It'll take a while, but CCP makes so much from skins and Plex that it's, you know, it'll be a money maker for Pearl Abyss for quite some time. And you know, CCP is going to, as much as possible, towards an in-game store that Black Desert Online has. And you know, because you've watched my videos, that Helmar is all about NFTs. Yeah. So they're so stupid too. They'll have just as much theft. You know, 500 million was stolen from Axel server, and I'm sure Helmar thinks himself invulnerable to that kind of stupidity. So he's not stupid, he's smart, and I'm sure he'll just have $1 billion worth of NFTs stolen from CCP at some point once he introduces it. Yeah, hilarious. Did Axel Games, what was the impact economically for Axel Games? I mean, NFTs are just like speculation crap, right? So Yeah, it's an investment in junk bonds, basically. Oh, silly CCP. Yeah. Geez, Fortizar in a high-sec island, protected by snuffed out. And it's not like you're offering them anything. I mean, what do they care about it? Another Fortizar or another clone bay, you know? Now that you can put multiple jump clones in one station, right? Upwell and or NPC station, whatever. Yeah, one just wonders. I mean, I'll have to think about it. I mean, how could you sell the idea? I mean, how many people like me want to make deals with low-sec pirates, right? I mean, I used to live my existence that way in low-sec. You know, I used to have posses in low-sec. I mean, obviously, you'd have to contribute to their war effort. I mean, that was the main rule that the low-sec alliance that I joined, in order to be a care bearer in low-sec, require that you had to fly their doctrines and be able to support their war effort. And that was pretty much a shoo-in. So yeah, if you're preparing to do the high-sec island, you can't ignore your skill queue combat stuff. You've got to be able to field Tech 2 ships and weapons. It's just, you're just not going to be able to fudge your way at all. I've tried, failed miserably. But yeah, take the time. Invest in your combat skills. You're not going to get away with just care bearing, unless you just go war ineligible and have fun. And that's what it takes. And realize that you don't get much benefit out of running your own upwell system. It's a trap. Unless you're willing to devote time to combat stuff. You can't just care bear it. It just won't work. Yeah, that's my advice. Thanks, guys. I'm surprised anybody's listened to all this long. Hopefully my voice is calming and, was it MSR or whatever the meditation stuff thing is. Have a good one, guys. Major freak out.